There it is. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Make Love Easy podcast. Delighted, honored with the privilege of introducing to you Thomas Whigham. Did I get?
Yeah, Wiggum.
Yeah, Matt has nothing but good things to say with you. His experience of you, his awareness of your story and your journey. Yeah, man, I'm excited about our conversation. Tell me your story. What had you get into the level of success you have in like spirituality, love, dating, sex, relating?
Yeah, I was an attorney and I was dating a lot of women and I was pretty much a full-blown drug addict. Um, so uh, I was having all these crazy experiences and found some guys on the internet that were talking about dating and masculinity, and they seemed to be really interested in women like I was, um, but they didn't really have very much success. And they had all these ideas about what was working or what should work or how to be seductive and pick up and all this stuff. And I was just telling people that that's not really what's going on, and um, that there's a lot more simpler, natural understandings of yourself that lead to positive interactions and a energetic sense of relating to people. And that was pretty well received, and people started coming to me for advice. And since I was an attorney at the time, I thought, well, this stuff I'm talking to them about is way more valuable than legal advice I give
Hmm.
on like a contract. So I was like, if I'm going to charge $250 an hour for some legal advice, like I would charge that for this. No, it's way more valuable. So I just built a business out of that. And the common theme was people didn't love themselves,
Hmm.
and they, like in a deep, real way, they didn't enjoy themselves. They didn't enjoy what they were as a person, and that was constantly crimping them and affecting them. And even dating coaches, actually, most of my first clients were all dating coaches
Hmm.
or pickup coaches and things like that. Um, so that was the work. And then through working on getting people to love themselves, uh, and went to AA and had a spiritual awakening in AA. So I got sober and I was working on people loving themselves. That opened up my heart and led to a big transformation. And then the work got really profound really fast from that point forward.
Hmm. Fascinating. So you're married now. Are you have been in a long-term relationship or
Yeah, that's right.
how long?
Almost 5 years.
Respect. Yeah. That goes past the anthropologically documented honeymoon period ending. So I always celebrate when I hear somebody who's lasted that long.
Yeah, the liberation through relationship is probably the most difficult. If we're talking about spiritual stuff, it's probably the most difficult path. Um, Transcending, opening up, getting blown out, having psychedelic experiences, visionary experiences, having your heart open. All these things are really important and profound and rare, but they're not always especially difficult. Sometimes you'll have people die and things like that. Relationship in an ongoing way, in a moment to moment way, being in uh, a liberated energy through relationship is the most difficult one because it implicates attachment system, all that good stuff at the base of the psychology that was formed before we had words.
Hmm.
It's really juicy. But the path of intimacy means every bit of conflict, every bit of tension is an opportunity for more intimacy. It doesn't mean you're with the right person,
Hmm.
but if you're with the right person, all that stuff is a teaching, and it's taking you into more and more expansiveness and openness, and it becomes a guide. So the relationship is actually deepening. We're like we haven't hit our honeymoon phase yet because you're working through layers of the onion into deeper and deeper intimacy. Um, but that requires a tremendous amount of strength and view to understand relationship well. If you're talking about a spiritual model for a relationship.
I love it. Yeah, I always am. When, when I what I teach in conscious language or
Yeah, I
skill,
see it behind you.
yeah, is awakening relentless love through partnership. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
there's a love that never leaves that most don't perceive that we can receive if we allow the triggers to wake up in us more freedom. So,
Absolutely, that's exactly right. Yeah, and with that. you, you're able to metabolize the dysregulation and create space for being new or different if you choose relationship and intimacy over the patterns. So that's the idea is you have to have the wisdom and the strength to be able to handle the nervous system dysregulation and activation. And you also have to have the wisdom to understand why that's valuable and meaningful. So it's not trivial. And what you're working with people on when I see behind you, um, social rock star stuff is kind of a power expression. There's sexuality, which is a lower body energy expression of openness. We want to think of sexuality as just like being open. It's not necessarily touching people with sexual energy. It's just being very open and it can turn into a sexual expression. So you're working on power, openness, and at the level of relationship, you're really working on metabolizing history,
Hmm.
and essentially like early stage attachment, which is something that most people, even when they have profound spiritual experiences, don't do. That's how you get gurus that can raise energy in people and inspire Shakti in thousands of people, and then they go rape a 15-year-old girl because there's no one there to challenge them on the underlying structures. They become essentially infallible to their groups, and they don't get challenged. And relationship is actually vital once you've woken up power and openness. You need it.
Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, there's nowhere for it to go.
And you just end up dangerous. You
Yeah.
can end up dangerous.
Yeah. It's interesting. So I had two men in San Francisco. We went on a very deep VIP retreat, and it was all about the exercise of power in dating,
Yeah.
in
Oh yeah.
relating. And one of them was afraid to walk up to women. Like, I don't want to use my power to actually even approach. And I was like, no, it's okay. Prove it through your experience.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The always thing I say is women are as scary as a flower. They're not actually scary. You're afraid, but they're not scary. And then the other thing is I always tell people approach sounds loaded. You approach a ledge, you approach a lion. Women don't get approached. You introduce yourself, you experience their energy, you put your energy onto them through your presence and your awareness, you let them feel you. And then if they respond in a positive, open way, or if they respond in a testing way, you relax and you play back and you flirt with the test or you feel their openness. If they're really giving a bad signal, you just walk away, no harm, no foul. But even the language gets loaded with insecurity because uh, men have a pathological relationship with their own anxiety. They believe that if they're anxious or afraid, something's wrong. And in fact, they don't understand nervous system activation is healthy. If you're not activated by a person, you don't like them that much. If they're not lighting you up, and then there's not really a spark. So if they're not beautiful or energetic or engaging, you're dead. And like that's fine. You can be seductive from being dead, but you can't be alive. That aliveness, yeah, at first it's a little nerve wracking because you're not in control in the same way. You can't run your ego structures the same way. You can't run your mental patterns the same way. You have to be a little unsafe with your patterns. But that aliveness is what the fuck women are supposed to do. They're supposed to make you more real. So people just fundamentally and pathologically hate how women make them feel.
Huh.
And they don't like that feeling, but it's wonderful. It's a great feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And we still get that even in relationship where it's like, well, she makes me, I feel all of this stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot. In relationship, it gets amplified, especially if you're with a woman who's alive. If you guys are just walking around dissociated all the time, you're working, she's working, then you watch Facebook, YouTube together and Netflix together or whatever, and there's just like little pockets of presence. It won't be that threatening, and you might not relate to what you and I are talking about. But Lewis and I are talking about if you strip away dissociation, if you strip away pathological avoidance for experience, if you strip away numbing your emotions, the only person worth playing with in a deep, meaningful way is your partner, and then to some extent your extended families. But it's really like a shared nervous system between you and your partner,
Hmm.
and that's incredibly profound. But I would say the kind of relationship you and I are talking about, something a little bit more tantric, is also a little bit more advanced. That's why you're training guys on power at first, just to feel their own power and their own aliveness and the impact it can have on a woman's nervous system. Men think women are in charge, they can say no. Well, men can fucking say no, you know? It's not actually some power imbalance here. Like you also can say no. You might not think that because you're so desperate, but actually, the same way they can choose, you're choosing. If you don't like the way she lights up when you hit her with your aliveness and your energy and your charm, you just walk away. She didn't win. You know, there's this false view that women are scary or pedestalized or something like that to these guys because they don't fundamentally believe in their own value and worth and attractiveness and understand why they're good for women. So you're working on something really important for people.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And you too, man. I hear a little bit about your spiritual retreats and your specific spiritual journey. I'm curious about that. Like what you had some kind of guru come
You
into
should,
you or yeah.
yeah, you should come out here. Come out to one sometime. I'd love to have you come to one. Um, yeah, okay. So that was a fairly spiritual conversation about the importance of relationship and intimacy in terms of development, psychology, expansion, freedom, what you're saying.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get even a little weirder.
All about
Um,
that.
yeah, transmission is, inside to inside, being to being, consciousness to consciousness. What you've realized and woken up in yourself and what you're working on is the best thing for you to work with people on. That's why you're doing this. It's good for them. You're teaching them very directly, but it's also good for you. It's the sandbox of what you're developing. But there are what are you developing in that context and as a teacher? Transmission, the truth of what you say. 10 people can say what you say, but if you really know it deeply, someone else can get it from you very directly. In fact, you can talk to them about going to the grocery store and you can transmit that social freedom to them because it's actually in you, it is you, and it's alive and it comes through. So that's the background of what makes some people very compelling and very good teachers. It's not information, it's experience, it's transmission of experience directly. And people that are resonant with you and open to you and have a kind of karmic connection to you, they get that from you better than if someone else had said it because you have it. So, in that context, there are beings out there who are transmitting awareness to people that are ready um, beyond time. And even when they're not in their bodies, which is just wild. And I would not have believed when I was a skeptical attorney, and even when I had my spiritual awakening, I would not have believed it. But an Indian man who died 50 years ago popped into me one day, and I suddenly loved everything more than I've loved anything. I had love for everything, and I felt like I was floating. And I was like, and his name occurred to me, and I'd only seen like one video on him and read about him 30 years before, 25 years before, whatever it was. Uh, it was so incredible. And I felt the presence of him. And I said, Neem Karoli Baba just popped into me. And so I go look him up and all these things online. The first three things I find say they find you when you're ready. It's normal. And I'm like, what? Like that's what happened. And then since then I've read tons of stuff and he does this all the time to people. But there are beings out there that will pop you essentially. And you can meet people like that and they play a role in your life for a specific time. You can go to a fucking Grand Canyon and it can do it. And sometimes people that have died will transmit their awareness into you. And that's actually very traditional. It's a guru relationship. And it's kind of what you're doing with people to an extent. You're guruing them to certain levels of progression. But some of these beings, they get in close proximity to you, they envelop you with their presence. You spend all your time focusing on them and thinking about them, even as you do your daily tasks. That becomes a teaching. Through that teaching, you unlock wisdom and you download as much of them as you can. And it's kind of like an overflowing cup. You hold everything you can. You make your cup as big as you can through them stretching you and growing you and developing you. You get as big as you can. And then you hold everything they dump into you as much as you can. And some of it leaks out. You can't hold everything, but you get a big download. And after that happens, now people can work with me. And if it's the right situation, they can start to have experiences with me like they did with him and like they're doing with you, or that you're just transmitting essentially a lineage of consciousness through different words in different contexts. I understand that you're not doing an Indian context, but it's still the same method. It's essentially an evolving intelligence being shared.
100%, man. I love this and fascinating. And I often in this industry and then in the world of spirituality feel like Fox Mulder from the X-Files, like
That's right.
want to believe and I've seen some strange stuff and what does it mean? I'm not sure. Let me run it by Scully. Yeah. I want to go back to a couple things. You were talking about like the melding of nervous systems. Those were my two main questions. I have a pretty strong intuition and idea for like the second half of this thing, but it's
Okay.
just like organic here now. You mentioned like basically co-regulation to a profound degree where two people are sort of melding nervous systems. Could you say more about that? Like, what does that mean? And
Yeah. So, women are better at this. They're better at
right.
loving and being open. And I always make the joke after my guru popped into me, I was the most loving guy I could imagine. I mean, I was just like seeing trees and loving it, space and loving it. Like I just loved everybody and everything. I loved death. I had all this crazy experience. And then I would just like see a woman like look at a dog and just start like glowing at the dog and just be like, hi. And I would be like, just dominated by how loving they were to this dog for what like they could just run so much love through their systems.
Hmm.
And so we need that as men. We're better at the view, we're better at understanding what's going on, we're better at having a model for things and holding that kind of, people say the word container, but it doesn't matter. You could say a kind of structure, regulating our partners through being grounded or having a sense of assurance, essentially. We're good with that. But in terms of openness and just running delight, women are just naturally going to be better than at that usually when they're lit up. When you can help a woman light up and feel safe, they're magnificent. And so you can kind of start from that extreme. I'm painting with extremes initially. You can see the extremes of what they're talented with and where they might need help and reassurance and safety and attentiveness and care to feel like they can stay as open as they are. And where you might need view assurance, confidence, and strength to go be as open and match them. So you're becoming more feminine, they're becoming more masculine in the sense of grounded, regulated, stable, and maintaining a view, and strong in that way. And so the two of you get more expressive and strong and regulated simultaneously from those extremes. That's one way to hold it. But a more direct way is when you're bonded and attached, you share a nervous system. A baby and a mom do it too. That's how the mom can feel the baby's hungry. That's how my guru could tell I was ready to be downloaded into. There's a shared sense of a felt sense of nervous system. Now, you can do this psychically. You can drop your mind. If you accept everything and suspend awareness, I can feel into you and have certain perceptions. If I'm really connected with you in a karmic way, I can message you, oh, you're having a bad day. I hope you're okay. Like that's common. People do that. That's part of it. That's a shared psychic space. That's part of it. But what we're talking about is more meat. It's more meat. When two people are bonded like that, they are actually like energetically sharing a body. And it's through two bodies, but it's like one body. So if your partner's mad, you ain't happy. You can go do drugs or watch video games or something to try to numb yourself. But if she's mad, you ain't happy. If she's tense, you ain't happy. If you're grumpy, she ain't open and bubbly. She'll try for a little bit, but she's not going to last. So there's like a responsibility if you really are being with each other deeply towards each other's bodies and mental patterns. And that's what we're talking about there. It's like seeing her as your baby, as your best friend, as your teacher, and as your mom. Unfortunately, women are our moms sometimes because we go in and out of ages through these structures. We go up and down the age curve where we're three all of a sudden for a second, and we're enacting a pattern at three. So suddenly it's our mom for a second. It's not our girlfriend, but it's not your mom in some concrete way. It's just these things we're going to go in and out of roles. You have to be role fluid, and you take care of each other's bodies, and that's the intimacy, right? That's the sophistication to understand that. But we're talking very advanced there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that what you're talking about, I've had a friend of mine, it wasn't like in relationship, but he got a spidey sense very specifically that I was in pain, so he called me
Yep.
up and he was like, "Oh, I I could feel a disturbance in the force basically."
Yeah.
And I was like completely heart-wrenchingly in despair because somebody's marketing had triggered me about what was possible for my business at the time, and then he facilitated me through it. Um, but what you're talking about, like this depth of inhabiting each other,
Yes.
basically, like which goes beyond that, it's epic. I mean, like
Yeah.
what great leverage to really keep your vessel and vehicle clean and pristine and aligned and like full of grace and love. Um, like being able to hold and handle and process together like parallel processors, kind of the same stuff. Because I mean, I'm sure you've heard it said that this is a very Course in Miracles kind of view that your partner is like your mirror, and
Yep.
if I can see it, part of me is still being it, like in terms of trigger or whatever. And if I'm thrown off to any degree by it, so like, yeah, we all get to process it together. Is kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's we want to say uh, in relationship there is processing, which means expressing how you feel and being heard in how you feel, and then having space to be felt and met and perceived by another person. But there's also the masculine side. That I would say that's more towards the feminine side. Not that there's male and female, but this is just how we want to view it in a tantric sense. The masculine side would be taking accountability for yourself and responsibility for yourself and how you're showing up in the relationship, and a chance um, to show up based on a higher sense of yourself, the highest sense of good governance. Give you an example because that's vague. Um, I'm fucked up emotionally. I feel this stress and anxiety about a situation. I got triggered. I need my partner to listen to me for that. Uh, you know, because I got triggered by the situation. She comes in, she receives, she loves on me for that emotion I'm having. She meets it. She helps me feel better. Okay. But we never ask the question, do I want to have that trigger in the first place? Do I want to have that trigger? And sometimes it's a normal trigger. My mom died. Of course I want to be upset by that. That's part of the grieving process, and it's very loving to be upset by that. I got a marketing post and it triggered me. Maybe we don't want that one. Maybe we actually want to be able to not be upset by that, and we want to be able to hold that in a different way. We can't help in the moment being upset by it. In this moment, we are. That's real. We have to name that and experience that, express that, be honest about that, and be connected in that. But maybe that doesn't match our value system. So we call that a wheelchair ramp. Right now, I need a wheelchair ramp here. But my goal long term, for my responsibility for myself, because this is not, God does everything. I'm not the doer. We're not talking about non duality. We're talking explicit duality
Mm-hmm.
here. Um, then my goal is that I will take responsibility for this structure and this reactivity, and I may want that to change or shift. I may have a value system that doesn't match. So I might have a wheelchair ramp right now that I need met, but I'm not going to make that need continue. I'm not going to drain you by continuing to do a wheelchair ramp there. I'm going to take responsibility for this trigger as well and work on my stuff and show up differently. And when I don't, I'm going to apologize. I'm going to ask for accommodation, but I'm going to recognize that that's a responsibility we can handle together relationally, but I'm going to take care of that because I recognize it's going to have an effect on our relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Yep. So we want to have the ability to process because that can help us go into clarity and it helps us feel connected and loved in places we might not normally express. So you and I are skewing into very advanced stuff. For most guys, just being able to say how the fuck you feel is a good practice. Like you said, just being powerful is a good thing. But we're going beyond that into really nuanced stuff of, yes, I'm going to be triggered here. I want to process. I want to get back into regulation and clarity, but I also need to take responsibility for how the fuck I'm showing up and ask, do I want to be triggered like this? Because I get a lot of therapist guys that are spiritual and they end up spending hours trying to get regulated every time a part comes up and they never fix the fucking part. You understand? They just circle the fucking drain until their partners are exhausted and they end up like these amoebas, these young boy amoebas who are just enacting draining patterns on their partners like they're their mommy. And they just make everything a draining pattern. And they basically just collapse and they use this processing as a collapse. Most of your guys need to be told about this stuff so they can express. They're not at that level. But you can actually weaponize this stuff too, and you need men that have both access. They need to be strong enough to take that responsibility. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. So you talk about marketing briefly for a moment. It's like what I find is most Asian, Indian, Persian, introverted, awkward software engineers who end up hiring me in order to get good with women. Like they start
Yeah.
needing the power stuff, they start
Yep.
needing the
Yep.
self-expression. And
Yep.
then when they get into relationship, then it becomes about like, okay, well, here's skill at dancing through agreements and containers and expression and processing without like a lot of modalities out there are process without outcome. And that
Yep.
like IFS and therapy are the ones at the top of the list with like the danger of, I'm well, I need to honor this part. Well, no, maybe the part is founded on a trauma. Maybe you need to weed your garden
You
and
got it.
the
You
root.
get it perfectly. You're
Yeah.
saying it perfectly. I was thinking of a guy with IFS training as I literally was giving that example, and you're exactly right. You see it perfectly. You got it. I'm so happy you're working with people on that because that's exactly right. That's the failure mode of that is so narcissistic and toxic. It's just an honoring of collapse structures
Yeah.
instead of honoring of your robust, resilient strength and ability to show up in a loving. Uh, Love is protecting your fucking partner from your shit. It's
Yeah.
taking care of people you love.
Yeah. Instead of vomiting it at them and making it their responsibility. Yeah.
And you can't help it. If somebody pokes you the first time, you're gonna go ah. You get in really cold water the first time, it's fuck ah. But eventually, you can get used to the cold water, and then you got to, it's just like that.
Yeah, well, what I tell my people is we go where we live emotionally and we use our environment and the people in it to get us there. So if you shake someone's hand over and over and you keep getting pain, maybe there's a splinter in your own hand that is causing
Yes.
the trigger. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're really working at the level of strength and nervous system training for these guys. Sexual expression is nervous system up regulation, strengthening it. What you're talking about with teaching them to weed their garden and not just act out their feelings and then be met in them. So you need a little bit of that. Everybody, look, loving your pain versus loving as your pain is basically the difference. You can love your stuff and have fondness for it and help you release it in the moment, or you can learn to find and connect to love and relationship through it, which then creates openness in the structure and can change the pattern. But that's much harder to do. But you're really doing the real work, which is good stuff.
Well, I mean, I think you are too, absolutely 100%. Like I love exploring the sort of dialect and distinction universe of a colleague who's really supporting men because we may say similar things or we may be pointing to the same things from different angles and it becomes easier for people to hear it from different angles. So no matter how much skill, expertise, awareness we have, I think it behooves us in the industry of dating, relationship coaching to like be casting our minds and our listening into the shape of other people's who are doing the real work. So just thanks
You
for
got, yeah, that's right. You're very welcome. I received that. Appreciate that. You want to meet people where they're at. My assumption is if I'm in this call with you and you and I are having this conversation and we're opening up to the extent of our conversation, the thing that I don't believe in doing is talking down to the listeners.
Yep.
I believe in naming and pointing very directly and then expanding out and that will create the stretch and people will stretch with it as far as they can and then they'll notice where they don't understand or relate and that creates a potential as well. So there's no reason to have lower to teach to the lowest part of the class. If you get what
Yeah.
I'm saying, we want to have these conversations at an advanced level, and people will feel. When we say advanced, there's no such thing as advanced, but what we mean is where there's energy, where the energy's alive, and then people will stretch in their nervous systems to match the energy and resonate, and they'll get some understandings, and it'll be different for each person, and that's why languaging thing different can do it, and that's why getting lit up by how you and I like to language this stuff. This is how we like to language it, which then lights us up, and people can feel that, and then they can go on that ride inside their bodies, which is really what we're the first half of this call is focusing on is kind of waking up the body because power is just another way of waking up and appreciating your body and what you're capable of as a person and how you are as a human being.
Man, love it. 100%. And I think we probably both work in what they call in Western esotericism hieroeidetic knowledge, which is it's kind of like hieroglyphics, but when you speak it, it activates, resonates, and opens new spaces energetically, emotionally, contextually for people. And like just like you're saying, we use the word advanced. I mean that can be a description of like cognitively, like
Right.
okay, so these require understanding of lower level concepts, but it doesn't make the person lesser or better if they understand or grasp it quicker or easier. It's like
That's right.
rise into my listening of you, I tell my people, because my listening of you is probably more expansive than whatever happens to be going on in your ears just by default. And then rise into our listening of life in this conversation to all of you listening currently. And what I mean by listening of life, it's like a way that we, a view, a
Yeah.
perspective of the world, because then it'll open you and open more to be possible for you.
It turns out people are really good at taking views and intuiting from the view the depth of the view if they're not trying to pick it apart analytically. If they just kind of they get a little bit of insight with the view, they can go directly there. And if not, there's enough language here if you play it back enough you can kind of follow the mapping we're doing. You can look at some of the assumptions. You can notice if it's logical or not, and you can kind of follow and build out your understanding. But in general, what you and I, yeah, that hieroglyphics word, I don't know that word, but I agree with it. What you're saying there, exactly. It's like you just give it this thing, and it boom.
Yeah.
Um, so, and the last thing I'll say about that is I love what you said about the listening piece. You and I believe in other people and we believe in their nervous systems and we believe in their capacities because we've seen it in ourselves in a
Mhm.
way that they won't. And it's important that somebody's holding a mental understanding of you and an energetic understanding of you as a deep, capable, expressive, expansive, free being. It's important when you're working with someone that they have the understanding of themselves and of you that is expansive essentially and can go beyond these sticking points, we'll say, that you know it and you know what it takes to do that. And as you hold that with someone, you actually, through your mind, body, and energy, will help metabolize their mental structures for them. You actually, talking about sharing a nervous system,
Yep.
and you and I's work with people, if we connect with the people we work with, we can take some of their stuff and eat it for them a little bit. We can eat a little bit of their bullshit. And if we, but we don't want to overdo it. You can make yourself sick, but you do a little bit of that with people. You take their stuff and you kind of run it through you a little bit sometimes, and it can make it easier for them. The problem is if they leave you and they go back and rebuild it, they're just going to rebuild it. So they need to have, the wisdom to not rebuild that stuff.
Yeah, I was just on it was like a graduation call with one of my female clients who I'm training in relationship. And there was a concern that was like, all right, I can already see in your languaging, despite the new awarenesses, that habit or tendency in the direction of rebuilding the prison of your past.
Yep.
So it's like, well, you need support. Like, and I wasn't dogmatic about whether she needed me or a specific form of support, but I was like, here's what I'm standing for is like create a channel through which your continued growth in this direction becomes inevitable rather than just someday, maybe, hopefully, or something.
Yeah, and that is I would say where men get an advantage. We're not as open naturally and delighted naturally. We're not as blissful naturally. We want to work on that stuff. But what you're talking about there of creating the channel and it going towards something inevitable, I do find um, men more willing and able to do that naturally and take that kind of intense support that's
Yeah.
needed. It does take intense support if you're going to take it seriously and you want it to happen quickly and even in this lifetime.
Hmm.
Intense support is needed. I mean, even with the retreats that I do, and you're doing intensives with people when you take them out like that, those are very, very direct. We're doing retreats every 3 months, which is ridiculous. And it's a lot of times people are coming to every single one. And it's like, well, what are you working on? Well, nothing in particular. In a specific sense, each retreat will have a theme, but it's actually just staying in the energy of transformation and continuing to double down on that energy and go, 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 and getting enough contact with it where you're lit up, you're energized, you're enthusiastic, and then it dissipates. It dissipates. If guys could and they lived around here and stuff, they'd probably come more often and do that. But
Hmm.
that's the fastest pace we can manage here. I did 6 last year, and I think that was too much. But that one-on-one work is basically built on this. What you're doing with people one-on-one, and I do 3 calls a week with people when I'm doing programs with them, which was a lot more than other coaches did. And I still found it to be even in the 2 days between calls. Sometimes there'd be leaks in the boat, and the energy'd be dropping, and you'd have to reinvigorate the people and get them back up again if you're really, really pushing people through the hardest structures.
Yeah, I remember what that was like. I would go dark for long periods with my first coach, like between calls, and then I would avoid calls because I could see myself going off the rails, and I didn't want to be ashamed or embarrassed or, you know,
Oh,
yeah. Great guy, and a lot of him is kind of channeling through even in this conversation because we're talking about like hear where we're coming from, step into the energy of where we're speaking from, feel into it, and part of my suspicion, just based on how you've conducted yourself, is I'm trained in wealth dynamics, which helps people step into the flow and path of least resistance into their highest achievement or manifestation or experience of wealth. and I have a suspicion you might be a tempo genius, like really sensitive to timing and specificity and subtlety, and just the way that you were describing, like, yeah, go back and feel into it. But
Well,
there's,
I
yeah,
would tell you something about that. In my lineage, which is from the Indian guru, there's something called the four fruits of Hanuman.
huh,
And the idea is when this energy starts to enter your life, four things happen: wealth,
hmm,
desire fulfillment, and they're contrasting resource with desire fulfillment intentionally there. The
yeah,
idea is you'll get resources to take care of yourself and others, desire fulfillment, a sense of purpose, which is right on your wall right there, and
uh-huh,
a lot of what you're working on, and you can see the overlap, and liberation, which is the freedom you're talking about. So you're in a Hanuman lineage in my view of things, and those things come along with it. And from that energy, things like tempo, timing, precision of advice, clarity, uh, happen very naturally. It's a very natural unfoldment of how consciousness is from that energetic space. And you know that very well. And I'll just give you an example. As this started to open for me, I started telling people, like, you should invest in this stock. And the next day it would go up 30% and things like that. Like, you just start getting very, and like, I wouldn't invest in the stock. That wasn't for me. That was for my sense of this person I'm talking to,
yeah.
that it would help them. And I would tell them that. And I started doing things like that very regularly and got better at saying things like, go talk to your boss,
Hmm,
tell them this, and then oh they got to promote, the promotion happens or they found a new career, and these kind of things start to happen very naturally from that space.
hmm. I love it. Your vibe and your like what you carry, it engenders trust and safety very quickly, very easily. Um, I also want to go back to some of what you were saying,
Please.
like, what's that? Or
I said please, yeah, let's do it.
so eat and digest. Like, yeah, there's sometimes when I feel like I am the release valve for the debris that someone is holding in their nervous system. And one of my mentors, he says a couple things. He says, as long as you can see me, I still have work to do. Meaning I'm in a body. That means there's karma to burn up.
That's
And
right.
he also says, all facilitation is self facilitation. So if I see it, part of me is still being it to some degree, if I can perceive and receive it. And then I'm facilitating someone out of something that I may be still experiencing, but from a higher octave or to a lesser degree of intensity.
I like that model. I would add a personal nuance, which is all karma is a shared field.
Ha,
You aren't just living as yourself, you're living as the people you're connected with, and they're living through you as well.
ha,
So you're not just living out your karma, you're living out everyone you love and are attached to. And sometimes you're living out just the relational field itself, just how your fucking town is that day.
hmm,
So karma starts to get very strange, and people who are metabolizing the field, the problem if I start telling this to people is they'll stop taking personal responsibility and da da da. Da. But just for purposes of you and I talking from the high level of the spiritual teacher, I would say he's got his stuff, but also his stuff isn't just his stuff; it's everybody's stuff. And also, um, there's this way we want to drop in when it comes to metabolizing things that let me see if I can do it. So um, we don't want to lose our ability to be affective and expressive. Um, Mirroring other people, having triggers, being upset sometimes is for someone else's sake and not ours.
hmm, yeah,
Now, if we are constantly just trying to get to what's called equanimity, where there's no trigger, and we just metabolize all karma until there's no trigger, we'd be equanimous. We'd be non-reactive. Um, but that's not dharmic. That's not purposeful. Sometimes our suffering or our activation is the result of a complex system, and it's not for us. And we are part of a web, like you said, metabolizing other people's stuff too. Yes, how that expresses through us when we're unconscious, it's going to come out in a patterned way in us. It won't come out spontaneously, it'll come out patterned. If you've got some unmetabolized, very minor borderline structures and you go work with a borderline client, you're going to be a little more borderline. It's possible you'll get a little more borderline or reactive because you've got a little bit of unmetabolized borderline in you. Yes, that's true. But the ability to get angry, sad, happy, uh, every feeling you could imagine and mirror that and run that through your system shouldn't go away. You shouldn't lose humanity. And in my opinion, you shouldn't seek equanimity, which upset Matt because seeking equanimity is just like seeking power. It's one of the aspects of consciousness, one of the facets. But as a full-fledged, expressive, alive human being, what I think of as an enlightened human being, they don't lose the ability to feel any of those feelings. They feel them appropriately based on the context and what their awareness is resting on, and through the sensitivity of their machinery. And they may not buy into the stories of it, but their ability to feel it and express it doesn't go away. And in fact, it gets very blissful.
Mm. Yeah, that's genius level. I really respect and appreciate that because, some of the traditions I've come from and through, they spiritualize life to the point of, well, if you're triggered, you're not coming from peace, love, and joy. But what you're pointing to is like, well, it's a wealth of awareness around emotional intelligence and fitness and alchemy, which is that like sometimes I'm being triggered, so to speak, in a way that's built to provide the environment for someone else to grow.
Yeah,
And like other times at a deeper level, like I'm not just supposed to be this flat Zen Buddhist Zazen monk staring at a wall, experiencing, uh,
that's right.
anatta. It's like I am I'm meant to feel the feelings. I'm not maybe meant to like clamp down on them or to resist
That's
them or
right.
react
That's
to
right.
them.
You don't have to hold on to them, but you want to be able to feel them. And Shinryu Suzuki's a wonderful being. He's lovely. You can see him. He smiles. He's light. He's a wonderful guy. He was terrible to his wife. Okay, he
Oh.
needed to work with Lewis on relationships. He needed to have the humility to come to Lewis and talk about relationships because he was terrible to his wife. He treated her like shit. So, and this guy's lovely. I mean, this guy could transmit the Zen stuff great.
Yeah.
All these people, they work on certain aspects. They develop and polish certain aspects, and then they get reified because of tradition. Lineages pass on karma too. Lineages pass on the dismissive attachment or the primacy of this way of being versus that way of being instead of the full expressiveness of being. I like the Buddha because he could, if somebody tried to attack him, he could burn them alive. He could turn them into fire like Padmasambhava and burn them alive if he wanted to. I like that level of understanding reality. But if you're not at that level where you could set someone on fire with your mind and teleport to two places at once, maybe relax on the equanimous shit. Because what you're doing is you're just in a kind of dissociation. The idea that you maintain one state is dissociative. It's yogic. It's a yogic model. You're dissociative. You're in one state all the time because you're just excluding everything else. And it's essentially a concentration jhana. You're just in a concentration practice and you pushed everything away.
Mm.
And that's horseshit. And that's why Shinryu Suzuki could sit in the bliss of being in his little temple and then go be mean to his wife. Okay? So it's not that he's a bad person. This guy's one of my favorite people. I think he's fucking lovely and he transmits loveliness better than almost anyone I've ever seen. Treated his wife like shit. The equanimous stuff is an eddy. It's a trap, and people get in these traditions. They have power. They have transmission. They're very deep on some axis, but people, let's say there's no self. I'll give you an example. So I'm just picking on that one model. People say there's no self. Okay, great. Go walk in front of a bus. And if you do that, I will build a temple to you and I will pray to you every day and I will tell everyone about your religion because you really prove there's no self. But otherwise, if you're not going to walk in front of the fucking bus, maybe relax and work on your shit and calm down and have a different model because it's not what it is. And the equanimous model is great. It's great in retreat. It's great for being in a cave. Um, at the highest level, all when you have Shakti, when you have energy, all emotion feels like bliss.
Mm.
It feels like bliss. It is bliss itself. And from the highest states of consciousness, everything is love. It's just seeing only love in everything. Everything is love. That's true. That's profoundly true. Everything's made of love. Some people say it's all God or the Supreme Self, or Buddhists will say the Buddha mind. Or okay, that's all very profoundly true about what this is and is made of and stuff like that. It's not actually prescribing anything about how it should look. None of that has a judgment in it, and therefore it could prescribe anything about how it should look, whether it should look triggered or not triggered. Well, the trigger's God too. The trigger's enlightenment too. You don't fucking know it, but that's what it is. It's pure energy. It's perfect. It's perfection itself. So triggered, not triggered, all this stuff, how it's being prescribed, in an ultimate sense, it becomes a thorn you popped out all your thorns with, but then it becomes a thorn. You want to pop that out too. But the thing
Wow.
is, these models have some health. These traditions have some health in them. They have some wisdom in them, and they have some fucked up stuff in them. They're profoundly fucked up in some ways. They'll say the word emptiness instead of openness,
Hmm.
because but emptiness is a nullification. This isn't empty. It's open. It's profoundly, meaningfully, fractally open constantly. Now that means it's empty of any solid thing, but it's not fucking empty. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's filled with aliveness. So you just have to be careful with some of these traditions. The people are great; they're helping people, but if you drink the Kool-Aid too much, it just becomes a religion.
Yeah, there's so much. That was awesome. Um, I I hear like, for example, Shinzen Young in The Science of Enlightenment, he
Yeah.
talks about like anger can be used by this head monk to teach his monks who are studying under him. Like it's just a flow of feeling and sensation, and it adds sort of emphasis to a communication. But then you look at the life of Shinzen Young himself, and he was eventually accused of sexual misconduct. And
Yep. Well, and also just he's a bit of an autist. He didn't treat his wife very well. And you can really feel how set in his ways he is. These guys with the mind channel open,
mm,
these guys that really open up the mind channel, the awakening of the mind channel and the upper head, they wake up the head a lot and they can go beyond concept and things like that. They tend to put themselves in position of being the boss,
mhm.
and they don't like when they're challenged or disagreed with or things don't go the way they want. I know it sounds weird for someone who's opened up their head conceptually, but the shadow of their underlying attachment is still configuring them. And because their head's open, they go, well, I don't have to worry about that. I'll just go into my open headness. Bye bye. And it's like, yeah, okay, cool. You can open your head. You're enlightened in the mind. That's fine. Your mind is cleaned up in that moment. You can access the open-minded state, but you're still configured. And they don't take enough responsibility for that, in my view, because they're lineage holders and they're sitting on the throne. They're Shinzen Young.
Yeah.
Good for him. And the thing is, I believe Shinzen is a guru.
Mm,
I think he's a guru. Um, if you study gurus, they wake people up, they transmit, like we were talking about.
mhm.
But there's a well-known corollary to the guru, the darkness and the light. From a distance, they're very illuminating. As you get closer to them, it creates a shadow. That's the Hindu term about it, because it's light. So as you stand closer to it, you start to see the shadow, yours and theirs.
Mhm.
The closer you get, the further away, it just looks illuminating. And the idea is if they don't have a woman in their life kicking their ass, telling them to take the fucking trash out, and why didn't they do the dishes like they said they would? Then they end up like little kings, and they can be assholes and just abuse people sexually is a common one in spiritual circles.
Yeah, I lived at a self-sustainable off-grid village in Costa Rica under such a leader, and he was very much enlightened in the mind, but the way in which he treated doubt, skepticism, criticism, questioning, even philosophical reasoning, even people who were like comparable to him to any degree in income. Like he claimed to not be a hero anymore, but if you were unwilling to see things his way, then you were not loving. You were dysfunctional. And
That's
so
right. Yeah, it becomes pathological, toxic. These people have good transmission, but yeah, I appreciate that you and I are trying not to do that. And the other thing is, let's normalize something.
hmm,
People that wake up aspects, like wake up their heart, wake up their mind, start to be able to transmit stuff. Um, it's hard because they have some deep wisdom and language skills and capacities and intuitions that come along with that.
hmm,
But think of it like somebody who's really strong. If they're really strong, things come along with that too, like perhaps a kind of toughness physically, the ability to lift things and move things, a physical fluidity of strength, right? So
hmm.
there's some strength that comes online and some capacity that comes online. Um, it's up to each person when you start working with profound people to be able to uh, be fully open, uh, surrender or open to the energy and the download you're going to get, and then immediately be as skeptical, judging, questioning of them as you want, and protect yourself as much as you feel like you need to. Um, Historically, though, I engage in a surrendered relationship to my guru, and I will do whatever I feel that energy is telling me to do, and I will listen to it unquestioningly.
Hmm.
If you do that with a person, you're gonna have a bad time. Very traditionally, it's almost always going to work out poorly for you with people that demand that kind of dynamic. And it's like you said, you have to see it the way they see it, say it the way they say it. Don't challenge them. One thing in defense of being challenged, though, it is hard to work with a bunch of fucking people who are putting a bunch of skeptical energy on you if you're trying to bring people into different energies. It
Yep.
can be challenging and activating, but that's because it's uh, one, if you have an authority posture, it's going to challenge that and contradict it, and it's going to implicate emotions and stuff. And two, it's just actually hard to work with groups of people. But the reactivity and the control and the stuff you're talking about, that's not excused by that. That's just it is actually difficult what people are trying to do with these things, but it's toxic.
Yeah, so I am all for my men getting enlightened because I think or activating, higher frequency energies or opening their heart
Yeah.
in that way, discovering their soul because it then shows them what game they're playing here on this planet and gives them greater perspective and freedom to play more effectively the games of dating and relationship and purpose and money and all of that. And I'm curious, given your background in dating, relating, love, sex, etc., like what do you know that no one else knows or that people should know like your uniquest wisdom and codes, if you have something.
Um, Make your wife your teacher. And when
Huh.
she's mad at you, even if she's giving you a reason she's mad, that's not the reason. If
Uh-huh.
she's upset, you're unconscious.
Huh.
Your wife's nervous system is your teacher. You is somebody who you can respect, um, but now, and obviously, if you're with a narcissist or something like that, you got to be real careful with who you're with.
Hmm.
But when you're in a real good relationship, your wife is your teacher, and anytime she's upset with you, it's time to listen and go look and figure out how you can show up better. Because uh, when you take responsibility for that situation and you go look, her nervous system's going to calm down and she's going to be a different person immediately. And it reminds me of my guru. He's yelling at you 1 second, and then the next second you fix it, and he's just so happy. Women are doing that to you constantly. And you underestimate how profoundly insightful they are because you think your shit's hidden. You think you can hide shit. You think it's not visible. You think you're so good at hiding stuff. And you could even lie and hide it. And I could just always lie if I needed to at the end of the day, or I could make an excuse, and that's gonna work. And all that's doing is convincing you, you dumbass. It's you're tricking yourself and regulating yourself through self-deceit. The woman's not fucking tricked. She's just with you and loves you and is putting up with your stupid shit. She can see through it. You're not fucking hidden. You're very visible. And all your little strategies are visible. And you need to just embrace that she can see and feel you. And if you're with someone who's profound and present, and your woman is present because you don't have her dissociated and disconnected because you're fucking dissociated and disconnected, you bring her into presence, she'll get better and better and better at showing that to you. And that's something people don't know. They don't respect women enough. Tantra is the worship of women, not because, oh, women, oh, pedestalized, let me lick their feet. That's concretized nonsense. That's just a fetish. That's kink shit. No, it's because they're incredibly profound, casually incredibly profound when you open them up and they love you.
Hmm.
It's stunningly good teaching.
Oh, I love it. It's like the Kali in Woman, the Indian goddess with all the skulls on her necklace. Like,
All those skulls are mine. She
yeah,
has all
yeah,
my
yeah.
skulls.
She's there to hit your shit and wake you
Yep,
up to it.
yep.
I mean, that's fucking amazing. Well, may I get vulnerable with you?
Please.
One of my favorite things to do with people on these podcasts is to be a guinea pig to the expertise and excellence of the craft, mastery, skill, and codes of whoever comes on as a way of demonstrating that to my community and then people who resonate with even that style of work. I mean, it's a different kind of podcast than just a
Yeah,
talking head thing. It's like an
that's
embodiment.
very humble of you. That's very humble. That's actually very loving.
Well, thank you. I do my best to drink from many fountains and to stay coachable and willing. And it takes a second for me to tune and calibrate to be like, all right, do I trust, feel safe? Do I believe they have something or could reflect back or poke at
Mhm.
or show me? And man, I haven't had sex for almost 2.5 years.
Mhm.
And part of that was I wrote what became a best-selling book about sex and intimacy. It was also about the organization I was a part of, but I was doing it from an anxious attached space, trying to win a previous partner back, where we had that Kali, we had that depth of intermingled intimacy. And then it took another year to like let go of soul fragments and all of this. And I've had dates, I've had opportunities, I've had, people who I probably could have been in relationship with, but I've also been engaged 3 times and none of those worked out. So like, I've had a higher standard for what I was looking for. And after
Well,
about,
okay. So
yeah,
here's what it is. Here's what it is.
yeah,
Um, you had to build what you're building. These are all dramas for you to build what you're building because you've built something important and meaningful for you to help these people, help other people. You went from unable to have the sex you wanted and the relationships you wanted to being able to get a minimum level of that met, and you feel comfortable being able to do that. You're not as interested in just hooking up with someone. You've gone beyond the "Oh, if I don't hook up with someone, something's missing." You went out, you went through all these dramas, you acquired skill, capacity, talent. You've had some sex with enough people um, to feel pretty good about it. I'm not going to call out the deepest parts. Like maybe you're like, well, if I had 5 women, that would have been cool. But you
mm,
know, but I'm not saying there's nothing in there. But in general, you exhausted that insecurity of like, what is this like? Can I have this or not? When can I have this? How do I get this?
mm.
How do I find this for myself? Like I can feed myself. I can have sex if not when I want to. I'm confident I can go out and engage in a way that will get that for me.
Uh,
And then
for
no, you're saying no to that.
Well, I mean, on some level, some version of that is true, yes. And about maybe 10 years ago, no, it was like 6 or 7 years ago, maybe, is when I started orienting towards more depth and
Right.
intimacy in relationship. Like I had had sex with like 30, 40 women and it was like,
No,
okay,
that's what I meant. No, that's what I meant. That's what I'm talking about. That 30 to 40 women phase. That's what I'm mapping there when I'm saying that.
it
That's that phase.
it did something for me for sure. For
I'm
me,
not saying you finished that journey.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And my standards have gotten excruciatingly high. And
Yeah, but that's what I was about to tell you. Just if
yeah,
you just understand that period, you did this. See, to most guys, 30 to 40, what the fuck? You had 30 to 40 women?
mm,
You see what I'm saying? I'm just trying to set like that period of your life, whether you felt any particular way about that, that is actually doing that. That is learning how to eat. If you've gone out and had that many partners, you learned how to eat in a certain way. And then now I feel two things. One, you
yeah,
had to work on this business and put things aside for a while with make sense of everything and go back and like you said the appeal to the woman trying to win her back, so you wrote this great thing that's actually very useful and it helped you work through stuff that's important. And number two, there's some ego protection because you don't want to get devastated. Unfortunately, once you put yourself in the position of authority and coach and things like that, it's harder to start back from ground zero. And as tantrics, we actually do start back from ground zero. I'll give you an example. When I was with my guru, all this magic stuff was happening. I was telling these people these miraculous things. I was essentially infallible for a period of time. Like my advice was just really, really good. Like he would come to me, I had the answer to everything. It was pretty good advice. Like I was just in the zone. And then I start my relationship and I'm wrong about everything. And it's just you just start back from scratch. And it's like, how did I go from like having a lot of the answers to being wrong about everything? I'm just a complete beginner. And it's like every time I check in with my guru, is she right here? Because I'm right here, right? And he'd be like, no, she's right. I'm like, fuck. By the 100th time, I got the point.
mm,
So there's some amount of that going on with you. And then the last thing is because you've done deep, deep work with a woman, you know how much control and over your nervous system they'll have and how disruptive that can be.
mm.
And you don't want to rush into that. So there's three factors. There's this is fuck when it's real, it's fucking crazy. Um, you've got a little bit of ego protection around some of this stuff, and you don't appreciate fully how important your work is
mm.
and why that needed to be pushed to the side for a period of time. But if you look at humans dharmically and purposefully, you've got to feel that. Like that it took you away from that. Now you'll come back.
Yeah, that's so good. That last one definitely hit. Like part of where I've been at is like there's been trepidation in putting my energy into anyone because the depth and level of training in transformation capacity and sensitivity that she had, the last one, like I was like, okay, if anybody, if someone can have this depth of intimacy and ease and grace and possibility and growth in relationship, then everyone should. Hence, I had to put myself aside for a while, and you're right, like focus on the business. But she immediately used what I taught her to go manifest a new sex partner, like
Yeah.
after we broke up. And I felt there was like an experience of missing out that led to a subconscious vow of like I won't ever hurt her the way that she just hurt me by doing this. And then using our organization that I introduced her to and the coaching I bought for her to help get over the guilt of the pain she was causing me. And so then
Well, that was selfless. That was selfless. And I honestly, you probably caused a little bit of damage earlier on during those 30 to 40 women. You probably had some
karma.
unconscious selfishness. And exactly. It's totally that. And let's not make a big deal out of it. Let's not make a bunch of stories about you from that. It had to go that way because if you and I were assholes, then we're going to find some women that are going to chop us up a little bit for being the asshole in the past. And then we're going to be supplicating, a little whinier. Instead of being the bad boy, now we're the good dog. Or I'm making these harmlessness vows. We're harmless now because we were harmful then. And
Yep.
neither of those is the middle ground. And you'll just pop into the middle ground. And I'm very happy to have some calls and talk about the middle ground for you and what that is. But that's all this is. You went to one extreme. Now you've done the other extreme and you ended, if you've been the dominator, you're going to end up cucked. If not in this birth, in another one. It's not a big deal. It doesn't mean anything dire. And you want the healthy middle anyways. By the way, um, even in that relationship, if you and I mapped it, if we took time to map it, I guarantee you there were points where you could have gone deeper, been more committed, or noticed she wasn't as committed as she needed to be to go as deep as you were going. So you were either holding back and disappointing her, or you were reckless and moving too far forward because of her energy into something that wasn't as good as safe as it needed to be to do that level of tantra with someone. So I guarantee you we could map and probably find evidence of both of those things,
Huh.
and it would make perfect sense why it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, this is good. This is gold. I mean, because sometimes my ego in the past couple of years has concluded, hey, for some reason, all these answers that you're literally giving your clients that are working for them to create manifest relationship and sex, they're not working for you anymore. And sometimes it has felt like I haven't even been able to meet the minimum level of sexual desire and need that I used to
Yeah,
have.
no, but that is true. You haven't been because you are on the other end of a drying out period. Look, this is very traditional for yogis and tantrics. You can't fill it up without emptying it first. Okay, and the emptying never feels good. When you're squeezing out the last part of the tube of toothpaste, it always feels pathetic or not as good, or we can always judge it, but that's what it looks like. Remember I told you staying in one state all the time is dissociation?
Yeah.
So instead think of it like this. Everything is inspiring an up of energy and then a discharge of energy. And Tantra is holding on to the energy without discharging it unless you consciously want to discharge it. But it's constantly generating and releasing the energy. So real life looks like this. It's not this. It's this all the time. With this being the truth. This is the realization, but this is the energetic signature. Ups and downs, building up and releasing, generating and then sharing with the people who need your generation. Okay?
Mhm.
You have tremendous generation of mind. How you language things, I'm very impressed and I love how you language things. It's wonderful. You have what I call Gyan Shakti. You have a really good, you call it genius. You have the genius of Gyan Shakti, the way you map stuff to the words that are precise. You get what I'm saying. It's really good stuff. And you're also, I would say, like three-quarters heart open with a little bit of the shit from the last relationship kind of stuck in you like a horseshoe or something.
Yeah.
Um, but you're working it through with people that you're working on and stuff like that. I think you need uh, a little bit of the same support you're giving to other people. I think you need a little bit of ongoing nurturing and just clarification of some stuff you've concluded about yourself, just like you do with others. And I'll just say this, no one's immune to that. Me and you are up here, we're acting like we're experts. We're just as susceptible to this as anybody else, in the sense of, we need help too. You always need an outside perspective, the guru, we want our wives, relationships, etc. It's totally normal and healthy.
Yeah, every coach needs a coach in every
Yeah.
aspect they're committed to, and you can't see the game while you're inside of it, and the outside perspective, you literally can't give it to yourself, no matter how much expertise, skill, or authority or accomplishment you've created.
You fucking can't. You fucking can't. It's really hard.
Well, here's a curiosity. I have actually gathered. So we were talking about a lot of the imbalances in gurus and in people with real codes, real enlightenment, real transmission. Um, Part of what's happened in the past several years is that organization in Costa Rica, and then another eight-figure coach mentor friend of mine here in um, is Mesoamerica. He was in Mexico. Were basically pushing Christianity as the solution. They were
Yeah.
like, hey, I've got these codes and I'm producing these results. And suddenly, this is like 2024, I'm surrounded by Garrett White, Myron Golden, Jonathan England, Andres Martinez, and they're all like, if you want eight figures like us, and you want relationship where you're having great sex with your wife 17 times in a weekend, and like peace in the relationship rather than unnecessary chaos, dysfunction, dysregulation, then follow Christ. So I started doing serious research and experimentation. And I'm not sure that I'm convinced, but I've definitely felt some things in those traditions.
Mhm.
And it led me to lean in a direction that, because I started Mormon and Protestant, Catholic, atheist, occultist, Buddhist. I never became Jewish, but that would have been interesting. Kabbalist was, and then psychedelics. And now, like, coming all the way back, it's like, I want people with real codes and also real spiritual experiences to come to the table together to discern the truth in a way that speaks into each other's blind spots.
Oh yeah, you get it. Yeah, it's non-denominational. We'll talk
Exactly.
about Christianity for 1 second, but first I want to poke at these 10-figure guys. Um, they have a vein of insecurity, that's causing them to overcompensate and pronounce what they're doing in a way that as if it's this esteem you should reach. That's false. That's ego. That's insecurity. You shouldn't fuck your wife 17 times in a weekend. That's sex addiction. You should do it a lot, but
Interesting.
17 times is compulsive and you're dissociating through intercourse.
Hmm.
Um, it's definitely healthy to have sex every day, even sometimes more than once a day. It's also possible to do it less than that, but this 17 times thing is compulsive. These guys are working through, they're unconscious on certain structures, and they don't question their values because they think sex is good, so they don't question their unconsciousness there. It's like if helping people is good, why would I question how I'm helping people? So
Yeah.
they've just got some value systems they're not questioning. I wouldn't let that give you insecurity or FOMO. They're going to get worked. They're blind to that, and they need a wife to come along and chop them to pieces. These big shot 10-figure guys, just like anybody else. Um, I'm happy for them. They found that expression, but there's layers there. It's like they're telling me they're sober, but they're addicted to 500 milligrams of coffee a day. It's
Hmm.
like, okay, you're sober, but you're not. And it's the same thing there with those guys. So don't let that give you anything. They do have some power and some Shakti and some energy, and they've got some women who are into it too. And that's cool. But uh, so that's that. The Christianity stuff's great. You and I could meet Christ right now. All you got to do is close your eyes and picture him. I wouldn't picture him as like an animated figure. I'd picture him as as a being, as a human flesh person if you want, but more like what unconditional love means. That's directly connected to God. So just feel Christ, feel his connection to God, feel his love for you. And then if you want to be really humble, and this is not something that you have to do, it's not prescribed in the West, it sounds weird, but if you just put yourself at his feet, if you just bow to the feet of Christ with yourself, you know how to namaste and bow. You bow, and then you ask a question of his field or his presence, and then you just listen to the answer. So um, you feel Christ, and then you could say something like, um, whatever question you'd have. I don't even want to prescribe a question. And then you just feel and you listen to the answer. And that's how you talk to Christ.
Hmm.
Okay. And Christ is great because he talks back. God, the formless, may or may not talk back.
Hmm.
But Christ will talk back like a person. You're saying, oh, that's Jesus. He's like a very warm, loving guy. He's occasionally a little scoldy. He starts to have a personality. And so God has a personality in that sense. And you can do it that way. And you can use the words that are said as what's called guru yoga, which means you can take those words and instantly connect to Christ through the word, just like we did visually there in that moment. And you can do that very deeply with your energy. When you've got energy, it's very deep and profound. You can do with the sayings of Christ. And so they're little reminders. Boop, you're back. You thought of the words, boop, you're back. You're in that space. You're in that union, communion. Christ says, only way to God is through me. He's actually right, because what he is love for God and people. He's love for everything. So, and the only way to connect to God is love for everything. So Christ is love for everything. So when he says I'm the way, he doesn't mean me, you know, my egoic mind. You must make a religion out of me. I'm the way. He's saying my being, how I am, how I exist indelibly through time now, timelessly, how I exist is the way to God. This is a non-denominational view. So it's irrefutably true, but it doesn't mean you have to know the name of Christ to do it. It's just that that's what Christ is.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I would say it. And you can read things in the Bible that way, and they're very profound and fun once you've woken up. The sayings in there are very profound, but it's not prescribed in that way, in my opinion.
Respect. Yeah, I'm always curious where people land in relation to all of that. I like to say that my limbic system doesn't believe in Christ the way that, or excuse me, I may not cognitively, intellectually, as a philosopher, believe in Christ the way that I used to, but my limbic system still resonates to and responds. And then you
What's
get,
your favorite?
what do you mean? Like
What's your favorite thing that he said or did?
greater things shall you, these things shall you do, in greater things than these. He was talking about his own miracles.
It's very lovely. It's very loving,
Yeah.
and the miracles are important because uh, power powers, cities are powers. They're not powers. They're realizations.
Uh-huh.
That's how reality works. You realize that's how reality works. It's not power. It's like that. It's really like that.
Mm.
So he's really pointing you to the loving understanding of yourself as a miraculous divine being, and that reality really works this way. It's a very sweet um, thing to say to someone,
Mm.
like these and greater things. It's very generous. He's got a very generous field.
Yeah, yeah. You know what resonated to me more in college was Indra's net, the infinitely many spherical mirrors reflecting each other in the whole, like all of us
Mhm.
being sort of God and divine, and it got me out of a lot of depression back then. But
You're like the hall behind you right now on the screen.
yeah, yeah, that's I got Mid-Journey to help me make this, and people seem to like it. So I do a little bit of show and tell with my backgrounds.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah, so I loved how you pointed out as well the sort of line where inspiration by someone could become comparison, putting yourself one down, and also pedestalizing pathology. You
Yeah,
know?
pathology. Those guys have a pathology around money, wealth, power, status, and sex. And it's okay. It's not as bad as some people's. They're not like the Wolf of Wall Street or anything.
They're on a spectrum
But they're
leading
on a
to,
spectrum. It
yeah.
is a spectrum. It really, we're just being real. It is. And
Yeah.
that's fine because power has to get expressed in this birth and people have to work through it. Sex has to get expressed in this birth and people have to work through it. And they're going to find their ways. Yes, but there's a tendency in men, especially, to signal um, how people want to be perceived for what they do or have. And it's always a tell. So, um, why do they want this to be seen as a good thing? Does it feel like it's literally for my interest? Why are they so interested in me having sex 17 times in a weekend? That seems a little strange. What's their investment in that? In other words, if they're saying it to glorify themselves without meaning to sometimes, that's fine. But why do we need to participate in that? That's narcissism, and it's goofy. Um, and if it's for my benefit, why are they that invested in it? I get that they want to help people, but where is that investment coming from? What's the hole that it's filling in them? So I love big shiny people. I love flashy people. I love Conor McGregor. I love Floyd Mayweather. I love all these rich people who talk about the money they make and the sex they're having and stuff like that. I think it's flamboyant. I think it's fun, but you got to be careful getting big brothered by that. Just like the heart guru,
Huh.
they'll wake up some stuff in you. They'll wake up some big, all right, let me go get my version of getting my life together. They'll wake that up in you, but they're passing on their trauma and their configurations. And you just, uh, you want to take that lightly. Take it lightly.
This is genius because the moment you get inspired by someone's great light is the moment you become endangered to fall into their shadow.
I think that's right. And I also think, um, any some people are meant to get riches in this life, and other people are meant to experience themselves richly.
Huh. Yeah.
And similarly, some people will fuck 17 times in a weekend and brag about it, and someone else will be very, very present, connected, open, healthy, and happy, and feel their partner's nervous system and realize that's 10 times better than if you had sex 17 times.
Yeah.
And they're wiser to know that. And so there's a wisdom in what they're bragging about. They're not bragging, wow, I was super connected and healthy and happy and enjoying my partner in a full, deep way and vulnerable and blah, blah. That's not what they're bragging about. Don't get, I'm just picking off this one little thing you said. I'm not,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
some of these people may have some amount of that open as well, but you get what I'm pointing to. You get the contrast. How much my wife and I love each other, our best friends, are like little children at times. That is a much more interesting, though much less sellable, um, and true, profound experience.
Yeah, this is so good because it's like there's an overpendulation. Steve Maeda, he used to say that when someone has been without their desires fulfilled for a long time, their perceived desires can get overblown, and then they fantasize about all these threesomes and all this other stuff when really their heart, their nervous system, their body may actually just resonate with like sex once a week with someone who loves them, who feels them fully and yeah, thanks for the deprogramming of the market.
Yeah, I like that guy. I like what he said. Things do tend to get overblown and fetishized. In fact, all fetish and kink is basically a trauma that you're celebrating instead of moving beyond.
Huh.
So it's the problem with kink celebration is the same thing with money celebration. You just fetishize stuff that should be metabolized and turned into something um, more open and less configured. It's not a judgment of the act itself. It's not a judgment of people engaging in these acts. It's just a realization about where it's coming from. And I will say this: it's possible that the bigness of their energy is inspiring you, but it's also diminishing you
Hmm.
because uh, when I'm so rich, I'm so well fucked, I'm so this, it creates so much bigness, but it can come at your expense as opposed to because there's a sales component, there's a marketing component, there's a this is better than you component in it. So
Hmm.
it's coming at someone else's expense. Whereas I hope uh, you and I are making everybody inspired to be as big as they can be.
Yes.
Who gives a fuck how relatively big each other is?
Yes.
Be as big as you can be
Yes.
and make you feel as big and important and happy and loved in yourself as you can be. And what that looks like for you is great. And it's as good as someone else's bigness is great. You know, that and really equal vision there.
Brilliant, man. This is like the right medicine at the right time, and I really appreciate you um, being you and standing in the way that you do for individual souls and their journey. Like I now see as I look back, like I overpendulated in the direction of wanting a wife because I didn't want the pain anymore of the rejection that I was experiencing, and then I started to dogmatize and crystallize into Christianity, and it wasn't for me. It's never quite been able to resonate for me. But then I got belonging from the community, and it was like,
Right,
all right, well, I'm feeling less alone because there are these
right.
people paying attention to me. But I was in their funnel,
Yeah.
and so it's like
Yeah, that's how it goes.
what I'm feeling is and for one of them, for the guy in Costa Rica, I was like the token intellectual. Like, oh, we've got this really brilliant guy who also believes what I'm teaching. And then The second guy, he figured out, well, don't fight the guy on the questioning. Just tolerate his questioning, invite his questioning, engage with his questioning. Don't snub it, don't stifle it, don't try to knock him down. And yet, there's always the supremacy of his frame. There's
Yeah.
always the like, well, God has an anointing on your life and wants you to make billions. And it's like, I don't know.
No, that's not, just so you know, just to be clear, that's not true. That's a nice, what that frame does is it opens up possibility and permission.
yeah,
You want to permission wealth, to an extent, you want to permission success.
I like
But
that.
because the big frames, big people are supposed to help get permission. They clear some obstacles. Here's more space.
Mm,
Now let's let what happens happen
yeah,
from this permission space. So it's a nice permission pointer, but it's way too dogmatic. And you can easily see how you could build a religion around that. You're not doing, if God's not giving you this, then you did something wrong. Because God wants you to be rich. So if you're not rich, you're fucking up. You understand what I'm saying? There's a subtext to that. Well, if God has a fucking mandated it and it's not happening, well, I must be the devil because I'm defying God. It's
yeah.
just you can come up with stupid nonsense with hierarchical structures and dogmatic uh, statements like that. We can have a call where we just deprogram this guy from your nervous system and pull him out of your nervous system if you want. Just call me and I'll just help you pull out all the different threads. Take everything that was good from it if you like any of it, but I'd be, after this talk today, I'd be willing to walk away from all that if I was you and start from scratch. And fuck these people, no offense. Um, you know, you're building a community. Find the language for your people. And if I inspired any of that today, that's my humble privilege.
Mm,
If anything you like how I said it and that made you help more people, then art we're sharing good together, right?
yeah.
But also, please feel free to take everything I said and say fuck you. That's stupid. Fuck off. Who gives a fuck? None of that. No, none of this needs to be believed or understood at all, right? We just had a fun time.
Yeah.
So, uh, but you're doing your own thing now. You're in your own lane. Fuck these people. Uh, what does it look like when you have to be the source for your systems without the religions, without the traditions? So I'm just going to say it like this. I'm in trouble. This is recorded. But, fuck Hinduism. I'm starting with mine. Fuck Christianity. Fuck Buddhism. Fuck all that stuff. Um, and fuck philosophy. Have fun and and be how you want to be with all the people who've inspired you. You've obviously been around incredibly accomplished men and women.
Mm.
So, take from them what you want. But yeah, I think you probably just you got bored, man, and you went into a couple cults because you were bored. That's what I literally think. I think you just got bored and it was more interesting to be in a cult for a while because at least it's like charismatic and there's challenging beliefs and there's some people around and like you said, there's a community. And I think like it's just, they say smart people, why do they go to cults? Well, that's why they're bored and it's like it can be interesting, you know?
What an empowering, like generous frame for it. Because like arguably from Landmark through Global Information Network, Earth Waking, even now this Christian guy, like I've been cult hopping for 10 years.
Oh,
And
God damn it. I started one accidentally. My wife had to help me break it up. I accidentally started a cult. You know,
you can't throw me
you
something
start,
like that 90 minutes in. That's a whole
you,
podcast.
no, no, it's just, you're very, it's very charismatic. And, I'm telling a lot of people good advice. I start telling everybody what to do. And next thing you know, the people who stuck around, it just created a bad dynamic. So, yeah, you don't want to be in cults. You don't want to start cults. You want to just be free of all that stuff.
Yeah, what really resonated most with me, like spiritually, is this emphasis you brought back or you brought into the conversation that used to be present for me before I was involved in Aleister Crowley's cult, the OTO. Like even that was because that at least was like be more of you and use
Yep.
magic and mysticism to do it. But
Yep.
like it's this integrated, holistic, organic. Um, internal existential like ecosystem, like what actually resonates to have me thrive. And you said specifically basically fuck philosophy, spirituality, and religion, flourish and thrive. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's gold. That's like t-shirt worthy, man.
Yeah, that's right. And those traditions have assets. They'll wake up parts of the nervous system, but
Huh.
you'll get stuck in them. Everybody gets stuck in them. Buddhists act like Buddhists, Hindus act like Hindus, and the thing is, I don't think I could have a deeper reverence for Hanuman than I do. I think Hanuman is the energy that woke me up through my guru. I
Wow.
have the deepest reverence for it. But anything that you make concretized like that, if you once you make it concretized. So I love that. I love that we could get to that point. And I think once you were vulnerable and willing to do that, we saw where the energy took us. We thought it was going to focus on relationship, but actually I think it focused a little bit more on cult deprogramming and popping you out of this cult model. It went more towards that. I think there's a little bit of work on relationships. Like I said, you want to do one quick call. We boost you in terms of getting back out there in the dating scene. But the main thing I want for you is um, I want you to be comfortably that charismatic leader for your people
Mm,
that need someone who's been, no one's been through no one, not even me, has been through all the stuff you've been through. I did the magic stuff. I've got some background in some of your stuff. You've been through so much, which means everybody who comes to you has been through even one of those things. You can integrate, contextualize, pop out, and help. So, if I was going to do like someone who could appreciate a cult but pop somebody out of a cult,
mm,
I'd pick someone like you.
mm,
I'd make somebody like you who can deprogram people by how much you've gone and drank Kool-Aid to see because you were bored. You're so smart. You're bored. You're drinking the Kool-Aid. You're like, well, I want some good Kool-Aid. Where the fuck's the Kool-Aid? And now it's like all these people can come to you and get such depth and breadth. And I just want you to know that and own that and feel that. And that will position you very appropriately for the influence you can play in their lives without grandiosity, from humility,
mm.
and see why you have been through all this stuff. And then the second piece is the same thing with your relationship history. It's the exact same way even if you don't see it. It's the same exact thing for you to find your wife and show up the right way finally.
Oh man, thank you. I received that, all of that, and I also want our listeners to see and hear how there's a meta conversation going on, which is that your gifts and your journey have value, and that you are here to own and honor that, which is what I'm standing for in Make Love Easy. And coming to the end of our time, man, when's your next retreat? How do people schedule calls with you? What
Yeah,
do you
people can
recommend?
message me on Facebook, Thomas Whigham on Facebook. Um, the retreat is September. It's going to be at my new house. I'm excited to have people. We just got the basement done. Um, it's pretty small. We cap it like 12 people. So it's not some big 30, 50 person kind of thing. It's really working more individually. Um, Please come in September if you're interested in it. Message me about it. I actually, separate from the audience, I would love if you wanted to come out here and be part of it and just see the way that I'm doing stuff and take anything you want from how I'm doing things and add that to how you do things and all that good stuff.
Cool. I'd be honored. Yeah. I'll message you about the details, and then if there's one thing you would like to leave people with, that like the end point here.
Um, it, I'm adopting a posture of answering questions and having answers and sharing different views and things like that. But the entire time, I'm trying to stay connected to Lewis's nervous system and work with his inspiration, my inspiration, and what is coming up, the common challenges and issues I'm feeling. So it may seem like I'm thinking this whole time. I have no word thoughts in my head. The whole time, there's no words. It's all spontaneous from a feeling.
Mhm.
And so now that you've heard that, if you go back and rewatch, there may be a couple seconds where there was like a word or two, but it's all felt. And we're just taking and translating that feeling between us into words, and we're opening our minds, and we've mapped stuff, we've studied stuff, we've had words for stuff, or we're finding language for stuff in the moment. We're going back to that. Um, but it's really a feeling based thing, and you get more energy through your feelings. You unlock Shakti and human aliveness through feelings, not emotion, feelingness.
Mm.
So love is your feelingness. It's really about the feelingness of uh, being able to appreciate yourself and others and life and opportunities and not be defined by trauma, which is configuring you, but feel your potential and you feel your way into your what you called your higher self. So I love you guys. I appreciate you, and thank you for listening.
Oh, love you too, man. Thank you. What a gift. What a genius. What brilliance. And to all of you listening, go make love easy. Thanks for listening.
Bye, brother. Bye.